Okay, it's June 3rd, 1989. And we're in Lexington County, South Carolina, about 5 miles from Leesville. And this is Laura Brody, and she's going to show us around
Brody Road dead ends at Two Nights Road. It was named Brody Road back in the 30s about, before they started naming roads for people.
Okay. And Laura, tell us where the Two Notch Road goes up here. And
Two Nights Road starts in Aiken and ends in Columbia, I think. May go further than that, but anyway, it's been the Two Nights Road, the same road all these years. It had postal telegraph line running on it, so it was known as the Wire Road. Instead of calling it the Two Nights Road, it was called the Wire Road.
And where is the Quattlebaum Road from here?
Quattlebaum Road is across the bridge. You cross the bridge and then go down parallel to the creek, on the other side of the creek, other side of the bridge, yeah. And it goes down about 4 miles and dead ends down there in the woods close to I-20.
And up here in this direction is where the Brody Road goes to Leesville.
Brody Road goes to Leesville.
Okay. Now, do you remember the story about Sherman's army coming through here?
Sherman's army was down 2 miles further down the road. I don't believe they came right by here. They came down to General Paul Quattlebaum's plant and house. The main thing they were after was breaking up his water plant down there that ran 4 things. They thought they were going to do a big job when they tore up all of that.
Okay.
Area. 2 miles down the road from here, and they didn't accomplish much because Mrs. Quattlebaum supervised all the slaves and what to do, and wouldn't succumb to anything that Army wanted her to. And they even went in the house, went upstairs, set the bed on fire. So what she did was to gather up all the bedclothes down as far as the flame was, rolled them up in a tight ball and gave them to her 11-year-old son, who was Uncle Charlie Quattlebaum, and told him to go down across the road and throw them in the pond, which he did, so the fire did not burn the house down. And pretty soon, the army seemed to have gotten scared and left. In the meantime, some of the slaves had loaded up a 2-horse wagon with people, most all of the females from around there, and took them somewhere, nobody knew where, to get out of the way of the army. And when that happened, the rest of the army decided they better leave.
Now, Pine Area was down the Quattlebaum Road?
Pine Area was 2 miles further down the Quattlebaum Road than this. That was the name that General Paul Quattlebaum's place went by.
And what became of that, of the place?
It was recently, when you settled the Brody estate, it was sold to Boise Cascade, a timbering company.
What became of the house at Pine Area, and how long did people live there?
The Quattlebaums lived there until little grandma died in about 1907, I guess it was. And then the house was being rented to people to live in. There was still Quattlebaum furniture and stuff in 1 or 2 upstairs rooms that was locked up. And then in 1919, I believe, I'll check on that date. About 1919, the house burned down.
Now, explain to us the relationship between the Brodys and the Quattlebaums.
Well, Grandma Brody, my father's mother, was Claudia Josephine Quattlebaum, who married Thomas Thurman Brody and had 4 children, Aunt Sarah and Aunt Virgie and Uncle Paul and my daddy. And Grandpa Brody died when my daddy was not more than 2 years old. And when Grandma came back from Charleston with her 4 children, all real little, and lived at Qualbums. We don't know any more about the Brodys than we do because we just lived with the Qualbums and didn't have any contact with the Brodys to keep up with the family. So that's what we're now having to dig up.
Okay. Laura, what was on this site first that you know of, and when did this house come to be here, the big house?
The first house was the old Qualbum house, which is now up the hill, sitting up there beside the road. And it was right out here across the road from a little bit in front of the Brodys house. And that's where my great-great-grandpa John Qualbum lived. The house was built about 1820, somewhere in that neighborhood. And he built the first dam down there on the creek about that same time. And that was the beginning of Brodys Pond. And it was kept going until the Burlap Power Company took over in 1908. Sold town of Leesville a franchise for 20 years. And that went on until not quite when the 20 years was out. And the remains of the plant is still there, but the dam is down now, so the creek is always left with the water.
About this building here down at the down by the road on the place, what is it?
This building, since about 1929, has been Rockwood Museum. Prior to that, it was just known as the tea house or the grain house or something where we kept farm products. And prior to that, it was lived in by one colored man that lived here on the place and worked. He cooked in it in the fireplace by himself. He wasn't married and worked for the Brodys some way, or worked around the place there. And he lived completely in the house, had a fireplace that he cooked on as well as kept warm by. He had a bed in there, so that was his sole place of living.
What's in here now?
What's in there now is Rockwood Museum. It's been Rockwood Museum since about 1929.
Things in Rockwood Museum or what?
It's all in it and didn't finish, and then I was told to put it back and open it up again as Rockwood Museum, which I'm in the process of trying to do. It has pickled snakes, it has all kinds of museum material, formaldehyde, jars. You see some of the museum needs. And then when the freezes came, they filled all this in and put a new road out there.
Laura, tell us about the building of the house.
The house was built in 1904 by Pappy. And he had lived in Rock Hill for about a year. The house in Rock Hill that he liked so well, when he left, he got a blueprint of it. And he came on down here, and he got enough land from his mother to build a house on. And the house was built in 1904. And then in about 1906, he started to improve the pond, which was being used for Qualbum Mill, and got it ready to generate electricity by 1908. And the day I was born, it signed the franchise in the town of Leesville, furnishing lights for 20 years.
What day was that?
That was July the 7th, 1908. And then before that 20 years was quite up, not the Broad River Power Company, but their predecessor. I'm not sure what the name of the company was, but somebody else was coming through and buying up all the towns. And They,
How about tell us some of the stories you heard about the snake lady in high school, would you?
God.
David, you better be
I
careful
was-
what you put on that.
I was a bit of an outcast myself because everybody. I only had one real good friend. His name was John Pauling. You know John.
John Pauling.
John Pauling. He's now a mathematician. He went to MIT. Went out to California to Caltech.
That sounds like a familiar name.
John Pauling.
Where do you live?
Off of Saluda Highway.
What you said is
You knew Edward. Edward Pauling. They were cousins. Edward was the tall, red-headed guy from over there around Dr. King.
Yeah, back down.
That's right. Me and John were good friends because we both had accelerated IQs.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
And
Yeah, when you got accelerated.
John had an IQ of about 165.
Oh, boy.
In fact, back in the mid-60s when we were in high school together, we played chess. Every day at activity period, we'd go get the French teacher to lock us in French class.
Yeah.
So nobody could bother us, and me and John would play chess during activity period.
Playing chess will sure get your IQ up.
Well, with him it would. I never beat him.
Oh, boy.
We had a good many draws, but I knew I could never beat him because his IQ was 15, 20 points higher than mine.
Oh.
Friends with a guy named Giles Grandy. Did you ever know Giles?
Yeah, I knew some grandies. I think I
Yeah. Did you know Benny Horn? Steve Hyatt?
Yeah.
Steve used.
Yeah.
Steve was one that came out to my house one day, and we were collecting snakes. And I had found a pair. They were mates of black pilot snakes up in a tree.
Yeah.
I had a tree house about 40, 50 foot off the ground.
Yeah.
And they got in the boxing in the top of my tree house.
Yeah.
And I was up there one day, you know, just sitting on the top, and I heard this rumbling, you know, in the edge of my tree house, and I laid down on the edge and looked around, and when I did, I saw him there in the box, and I reached in there and went to pulling, and you know, I pulled out about as big around as my wrist, you know, this big black. I kept pulling, and tail popped out, you know, and the head, you know, and I had one wrapped around one arm. Next thing I know, here come another tail popping out. Oh my God,
boy.
I got more than I can handle
You
now.
really were getting snakes.
And I pulled out a pair of them. And I got to where I would take them out, you know, during the active season, and I'd keep them around the house. Then when winter come, I'd turn them back loose in the tree.
Yeah.
Well, Steve Hyatt come there one day. He had caught one, and he had it wrapped around his arm. And he said, "Look what I got you, Phil." And I said, "Well, Steve, how about waking up?" The snake had grabbed him right here and was just chewing on him. He didn't even know the snake had him.
Oh, boy, where's him up?
And I said, "Wake up, Steve. That snake's got you right there in, you know, on your hand." And I went over and grabbed him, you know, on the head and pinched him, you know, made him open his jaws up. Now, they used to tell me that people, you know, they wouldn't come over here, but they would say, you know, that woman's got them just crawling around all over her house, on the floors.
I lived here 25 years by myself.
Said she's got jars full of them, you know.
Everybody said, well, the reason I was safe was that everybody knew I had snakes. And they just weren't coming. Well, I wasn't scared, and I didn't know that snakes was what was protecting me, but I stayed there.
Oh yeah, you had good protection. People wouldn't come around. They were, you know, they were scared to death of this place. They were scared you had rattlesnakes crawling around in the house, you know.
They probably.
Well, I had, you know, I turned them loose in my room from time to time.
Laura, you were born in this house, is that right?
Yep, I was born in this house in 1908,
On what day?
July the 7th, and I lived in it until 1926. I went to Winthrop, finished high school, stayed up there a little bit over 2 years, and then I came home and stayed on here until started working at the Louisville Oil Mill. Worked there for 5 years. And then I went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, to see what museums are like and see what herpetologists do. And I went to stay 6 weeks, but I had to stay 8 because the summer school session had me working in was 8 weeks instead of 6 weeks. And they told me they wanted me back next year if they could get me money to pay me. And by the end of the next summer school, tail end of the summer, I got a letter saying they had enough to keep me for about 6 or 8 weeks, according to how fast I used up my money. So I went back to stay 6 or 8 weeks, but I stayed 9 years. And that put it to about 1942 or 3 or 4. I came home and they wanted me to go to Field Museum in Chicago. So I stayed home about 1 year. Went to California in the meantime. Worked at W.B. Altman and Sons for a while. Then I went to Chicago and worked at Field Museum for 10 years. And then I moved from Field Museum up to Chicago Academy of Sciences, where the first herpetologist that I had known was director. And I went up there and stayed until a Chicago police car hit me.
When was that?
That was in 1961. And it took about 4 years to get cured of that and get the case settled. So I came home about 1964 and started living at the Brody house again. So I lived out here from 64 until about 85 or 6. I started staying with the Freezes. And then the Freezes started working on the house and got ready for us to move back down here. And the Freezes and I have all been living here ever since then, except while we were in Africa.
Now, was your brother Oliver born here too?
Yeah, no, Oliver was born up close to Rock Hill while they were living up there in a house just like this.
And was Josephine born here?
Joseph was born here.
She was born in when?
1905.
And were you and Josephine born in the same place in the house?
No, I think she was born in some unfinished room somewhere. Not very long after the house was built, you see. And then I was born in the room I'm sleeping in now. And the bed that stayed there until a few years ago when I gave it to Walter Coffee Baby.
And these 2 live oak trees here, how old do you think they are?
These live oak trees were planted in 1850. My great-great-granddaddy lived across the road from here, and some relatives of his from Charleston came up to see him and brought him some acorns from some of the Charleston live oaks they planted here.
And that was who?
Yeah. John Watson.
Okay.
Lived over here. The house he lived in was still here after this house was built, and then Pappy moved it up on top of the hill across the field, and it's still up there.
Now this road going up through here.
This is the old Brody Road going up through here. That road out there, which is now paved, wasn't made until the middle 40s. And then it was paved about the early 60s, I guess. Sometime around then.
And all this open space out here is where the ponds have been.
Yeah, all that out there is where the pond was up. And while it was down, we cut a lot of trees out of it, so there's very little growth or dead snags to stick up when the pond is up.
Now, did you tell me that over here where the daylilies are is where the Quattlebaum house used to sit?
Not that far back. It's about where this road is.
Okay. And it's up now on the hill behind those
It's up
trees.
on the hill across from those trees.
Okay. Well, why don't we walk down to the plant?
Okay, let's go to the plant. Originally part of the Quattlebaum Lumber Company, back around 1890 or 1900, sometime in there. And then when Tippy started living here, he wanted to develop the pond and put in a light plant. So he wasn't sure what sort of condition the dam was in or what ought to be done to it. He had a brother that was teaching from college at the time, so he wrote to him and asked him suggested what he thought ought to be done. So Uncle Paul wrote back to him and told him that was just exactly right, just to go ahead and start fixing things up based on what he had written. So that's what Tippy did. And by 1908, he had everything all fixed up, had a generator, ready to generate electricity. And started to sell current to the town of Leesville. And that all went through very nicely. So by the time I was born, July the 7th, 1908, the contract went through to the town of Leesville to furnish lights for 20 years.
Now, the pond was formed by two creeks?
Yeah. The pond was first formed in 1820, plus or minus, by John Quattlebaum, who was my great-great-granddaddy. And it started at that time, it had either a sawmill or a grist mill or a cotton gin or something. It was running. It went on like that until the time my daddy wanted to improve it some and put in a light plant.
And the two creeks are what?
Two creeks are Hellhole Creek, which starts in the city limits of Leesville.
And is that the one off to the left?
That's the one off to the left. And it comes straight down from Leesville and then joins Lightwood Creek, just about 100 yards up from the present dam. And the two put together made a pond. And the name Hellhole was dropped at this point. And Lightwood Creek continued on down until it hit the North Edisto River, down about 10 miles from here.
And where did the name Hellhole come from?
Hellhole, I learned somewhere, came out when the civil soldiers were going through up there, and some crowd yelled back to another crowd, don't come up here with any stock of any kind. This is a hell of a hole. And from then on, it was called Hellhole.
And those were the soldiers in which war?
Those were the soldiers in the Civil War. And sure enough, I never saw the name Hellhole used anywhere before the Civil War. But immediately following the Civil War, every map that had any name on it, or every location that was mentioned, Hellhole was the name of the creek.
Now, the name Lightwood, what's that about?
Lightwood, lightwood is longleaf pine, which makes very fat wood. So when you want to have a fire, you have this easy burning stuff. And a lot of times when people didn't have anything to see by, they would just light a lightwood stick of wood that would make a lot of light from the flame. So the creek down here was just named Lightwood Creek because it's where lightwood trees grew, longleaf pine, in other words.
Do they still grow?
Oh yeah, the place is loaded with them.
Okay, let's see if we can't go down closer to where the dam was. Where are you standing now?
I'm standing on the rock dam, which which is part of the dam to Brody's Pond. And just when it was built to begin with, I don't know, but part of it was built in 1910, October, I believe. Yeah, October 1910, because Happy always dated any cement he poured. But part of it may have already been here before we get that part on. And under it was one great big solid rock, which is the foundation for all of the dams. It was made there.
Now, is this dam below previous ones?
Is it what?
Is it farther down the creek than the earlier ones?
Yeah. Every time you built a dam, you had to go down a little below that, use the old dam to sort of hold the water back out of the way, and then build a new dam. So this dam was built after the one that was built in 1820.
And it would have been about where? The one in 1820.
You mean about when?
About where out there along the creek would it have been built?
The one that was built in 1820?
Mm-hmm.
Right down the way, see those timbers.
Okay.
The foundation of it is still there. And the sills don't have any nails on them, because there wasn't no nails at that time. And they were all hacked out with axes or something, and cut down and fitted into it instead of being nailed together. And all the timbers that have stayed underwater all of this time are still good and not rotten. But once they get above water and stay there very long, or alternate wet and dry, then they rot.
Now this point of land up there on the other side of the pond, what do you call that? Where the trees are?
That is the point that's made where the two creeks come together. And us kids just named that field over there Cape Corn, because the shape was a cape, and it always had corn planted on it. So to us, that was Cape Corn.
Where I see trees now used to be fields?
Until the trees all grew up, you could see the whole field, and you could ride over there on a boat and ride out, get up right up to the field in this point. And it was just a nice, beautiful place. And Cape Corn was loaded with Indian things, arrowheads and pottery and hammers and all sorts of Indian stuff. And now the trees have grown up all around.
Now on the concrete wall here across the creek, I see a line going at an angle. Is that where the dam used to be?
That line going straight up was what took the walkway up to where you walk across and then get up and walk up steps and go out on the veranda there. That diagonal one going looking to the left is where the 2-inch boards were fitted tight into the concrete wall so that the water wouldn't leak down. See the board is 2 inches and solid all the way down to the bottom where you see that crack. And then came all the way over here and jammed up against this wall here on the other side of it.
Now, can you walk over to where the spillway was?
Yeah.
And there's another.
Right here is where the water went through to go to the water wheels to run the plant. And all that other places over that way was where surface water went when they was no place where the pond was full that it needed to be. Just had some surface to put down.
Now there's a slot there too, or right on the other side of you, that wall there.
Yeah, you see this is between that wall and the end of this dam is where the boards were to let water in to go to the water wheel. And there was a trough, an iron trough, going from this entrance right here all the way back to the water wheel. Case that held the water wheel. And then when you open the gate on the water wheel, water would go through and run the wheel. And then when you got through running, you wanted to save water, you put these boards back down and kept the dam from leaking, or kept the wheelhouse from leaking. There's water in it.
Now all of this debris that's in here now is left from the time the dam broke last. Is that right?
Yeah, all this trash here washed up. Dam broke the last time.
And when was that?
That was about, well, I'd say the last week in August. I'd have to look at the calendar to see what day. It was
Of
3 days before we left for Africa.
In 1987.
87, yeah.
Okay.
I can look at the calendar and give you the date.
This is the spillway I'm looking at. What was the spillway?
Spillway.
I mean, this is the...
This is the entrance to the water wheel.
Okay.
It's not the spillway.
And the water went through this...
Went through this fault down to the pool pit and then here. And what did not go through this fault hill was over in Water's Pond. It got too full and the sublet was down.
Now, are we looking at the place where the wheel pit was?
Yeah, back behind that high tree down there. All that space right there.
Now that column there that's broken off.
That's the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pillar to the full base and water back to the water wheel.
And then up above the water wheel and the plant was... it was in that space right there.
Wasn't anything in that. That's where the water was. And the water was up the full head. You came way up there, the other to the top of where you see the back door.
And in the inside of the plant there above the water wheel.
Inside the plant, above where the water wheels are, there's a mechanism that turns through the wheels have shafts on them coming up through the floor. And then the pulleys on the shafts up in the plant. That ran the generator. There's one place where it was those two post lights down, if you can get them to show, maybe I'll get closer to them. They were part of the first 1820 dam.
Those,
Four posts there, two more in between those, all equally spaced. And now they are doing right in there like that. Yeah, I think that's the video that's up. Somebody climbed up that wall and climbed in over that tin there and went up in the plant right inside the door there and showed my video. That's black something. Does Brody know about doodle bugs?
no, he doesn't.
Well, I'll teach him about doodle bugs, probably not till his next trip.
What's the doodlebug song?
Not the doodlebug song. There's a doodlebug though. Us on it.
I thought you were supposed to say something when you stirred up.
Oh, you say back, doodle, back, doodle, back, doodle, but if you stir them up like this, it's good. Do these, maybe a little mess and then if you do this, you see one crawling and you ribbon, so you can tell right off if it's there.
I think in the encyclopedia I looked in one day, it said these were ant lions.
Yeah, I guess that is a little.
They make these little holes to catch ants.
Yeah, I guess it is. See, when night falls in the line, can't get out, so you just eat. That'll do right there.
Let's see.
See?
Just
Line
hold
on
on
your
to a
back.
minute there. Try looking at him again. Okay. And we're underneath the plant now.
Underneath the plant. And over here is where this is the Lombard governor, which kept the voltage bright all the time, regardless of who cut lights on or who cut lights off. All you had to do is to start the plant.
And which one is the governor?
Huh?
Which one is the governor?
This one right here. Start the plant and get the voltage about right. Then turn the governor on. If it was too high, the governor would shut the wheel and take it back right away. If it was too low, the governor would open the wheel some more and see just the way it was right. That was one of the nicest things we had about the whole plant.
And what's that wheel there is part of the governor?
This is what you set the governor with. Set the wheel with it. See, the governor's dead. When you turn this, you'd be opening the water wheel gate. So you'd open it with this until you got it up to about the right speed, right voltage to start. And then you'd turn the governor on by pulling this out. And then the governor would take over. You wouldn't have to do any more till next day. The water wheel right under there. This is the idler, and behind that there's another wheel this same size about. And under it is the water wheel with the shaft going straight up. And you put the belt on the other pulley, and then comes around this as an idler.
Is one like the one that was used?
No, this is much, much, much smaller. About half as big and probably put out about half as much current. We got this one after we had about gotten ready to shut down the plant, and we were going to use this for our own use when we were not running the big one to furnish lights to town. And this one we just happened never to use it yet. I brought this down here from Charlotte once when I was home on vacation. And then I went back up north, and I never did know for sure whether they actually ran it or not.
That I'm looking at.
That is the idler wheel for the water wheel.
Okay. And there's another one over.
And this thing here, that's not the idler, that's oh, you know, the same idler I guess works for both wheels. Must not be the three wheels back there. See, there are two water wheels, and there were two generators. And you could have a belt going from the water wheels over to the generator. And then
Tell us about this milk house.
this milk house belonged to my great-grandmother. Lived 2 miles down what is now Spillway Road.
Your
And,
great-grandmother, which one?
Great-grandmother Spillway. All 5 of them. And the milk house was down at the bottom of a hill. And there was a spring up the hill a piece with cement base to it. a little house built over it, and a pipe running from the spring down to the milk, to a trough in the milk house, and that's where little grandma kept her milk. All kept cool all day long. And in about 1936 or 7, somewhere along there, they needed another house up here, so they moved that spring house up here and set it up right there, and been there ever since.
And when do you think this house was originally built? On its
It may have
original
been
site?
built, they moved down there and built all the other stuff and started building stuff about 1837, I think.
Now by down there, do you mean Pine area?
Yeah, Pine area, 2 miles down what's now Quattleton Road.
So
That was before this place up here was settled at all.
So this is the only structure we know left from that original place.
Yeah. There were slave houses down there that people continued to live in and then finally burned down. And the big house that General Paul himself lived in was burned in 1919, I believe it was. We had people living in it. And somebody saw the house on fire. And there was a little tiny speck burning out on a roof outside of one of the upstairs windows. Anybody could have gone and climbed out of that window and put that fire out, and that would have been it. But no, they just let it burn and started taking all the furniture out.
At Pine area,
Pine area.
what before the war, what did they do there to make the money?
At Pine area?
Yes, what was their form of living?
Farms, and they had slaves to do all the work, and they had all sorts of farming things going on.
How many slaves do you think they had?
I don't know. I'd have to look up some figures on it. But the slaves all liked Grandpa Quattleton so well. The war was over, and he explained everything about what had happened in the war and so on. Not a single one of them wanted to leave. They all wanted to stay on with him, which they did.
Was it cotton or lumber that they grew? Or?
Well, it was, I expect a good bit of lumber. And then down at his mill, he ran a corn mill and a sawmill and a grist mill and all sorts of things. What Sherman's army came through trying to do was to tear up all of that plant down there so he couldn't make any more of those industrial plants.
Now that plant was on Lightwood Creek further down.
Yeah, on the same creek on down there.
Did that pond have a name?
No, I don't think it did. It was probably just Paul Quattleton's pond.
And but why wasn't the house burned in the war?
In the war?
Mm-hmm.
Because my great-grandmother went in behind soldiers that set it on fire and rolled up all the covering on the bed, just looked to see how far down the fire had gone, rolled it all up, tied it up in a good tight ball, and handed it to her 12-year-old son, who was Uncle Charlie, and told him to take it out across the road and throw it in the pond, which he did.
Back side of the milk house
Back
now.
side of the milk.
Okay, and where else are we?
Well,
we're behind the house here.
We're down the hill from the backyard.
Now, tell us what is happening here now and how this back hillside has been in the past.
The Miss Freeze, I think I'll tell you that. I would be sure to say the wrong thing about what's going on. Why don't you wait and talk to me through?
Okay, well, what do you remember about ways it has been in the past?
It's just been a steep hill, too steep for anybody to walk down. And it was considered nothing but a trash pile and a dump. So all the garbage that anybody wanted to throw away, they just threw out down the hill. I'll haul it out.
Now over across the creek, that rock, that's the picnic rock?
That big rock, yeah, with the piling there, this backside of the dining room table, and it's accessible all the way around, and you can still a big tablecloth on it, put all the food on it, and that would be the dining table to eat on. So that's what's called picnic rock. The picnic rock happens to be located on this very big thing, the solid rock, which can be kept clean. Just sit around there.
You know, at this point on the creek, we're down a little ways below where the dam was.
We're down where the overflow from Jonathan flowed from the water wheel. It's coming down from the dam, the big long place across there. And then this right here is what's coming down from the water wheel by way of the wheel pit. And then the two join right there. Well, they don't join completely because a little bit's going on down over there and don't join until you get to the pit.
Now,
We're on the old road that went from the Brody house down to the Baldwin house in Pine area. And the road ran right through the woods down the creek. And this bank over here was the side of the road. I don't know what made it originally. But you can follow the road by being down flat on the road. And then the hill goes up a couple feet.
now, how do people tend to get back and forth? Ride a horse, walk, ride a buggy?
Mostly buggies until they got automobiles, and the road was good enough for automobiles to ride if you were very careful to read.
And when did,
Then the road got moved in about 1940 something, or maybe it may have started moving during the middle 30s. When the WPA started doing work. Look who's coming. This is a private road. What y'all doing down there?
We're private.
Oh, y'all are private too.
We're private.
Okay, if y'all are private, walking on private roads, that's all right. Past the spring yet? Past the other spring off the hill and what road? Hi, Chris.
Hi there. They went swimming. Yes. In Jordan's swimming pool. I was naked in the swimming pool. We had fun. Hi, Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
with the camera? There's Doris Freeze behind him. There's Mama. And there's Laura, a.k.a. Tippy, Mutt, LB, and Brady. You're
Shall we go?
great aunt. Yes, let's go back down the road to the road house.
Okay.
that's this bank there where the road was. How do you get this road out? The bank outside the road, the whole road. How do you dig it out?
Well, did they just dig it out and then throw the rest of it down there?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Did you hear Laura's question?
Jerry, Doris, tell us what you've done here with the house and what you want to do with it, and what you maybe wish you hadn't started doing.
Well, there's nothing we wish we hadn't started. We'd like to have more time to do it.
Well, we've worked on the outside, mostly painting on the outside of the house. The grounds, we have cut down mostly privet hedge, which is these green plants here. They had pretty much taken the whole area. This area we're standing, we mowed it several years ago, and we've been keeping it mowed. So it is beginning to turn into a lawn. This area here we're just cleaning this year, and the whole backyard was hilly and rocky, and the reason we left it was because it was such a big chore. But this year we've tackled it and are trying to win the battle. We've stacked up some of the rocks and terraced part of it to make level places and little rock planters and so on.
And on the front side, you moved the driveway and
Yes. I guess
added a walkway.
yes. What, three years ago, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago, we pretty much completed most of the work we set out to do, and we're really basically finished there. Some more planting. Yeah, we basically cut out the privet hedge and the undesirable plants and filled the old driveway, which was really, it was a low cut right very near the house.
You remember how it was eroded. The old driveway was close to the house and eroded.
Went between those trees.
Right.
Mhm.
It was used as the primary road to Leesville for years and years, and it had eroded down to where there were banks on each side about chest high. And so we decided we wanted a little bit more front yard. So without even moving the culvert at the road, we put a driveway through, actually it was through the pasture at that point. And so that gave us a little bit more
But
yard. And then we put 100, Laura? How many azaleas did we plant?
About 127, I think.
127 azaleas out under the live oaks and
And about
pine trees.
7 different groups.
So we've pretty much completed everything we really had in mind doing, except we wanted to put centipede grass, really permanent lawn grass, and we also wanted to irrigate it. But those two have kind of got put on the back burner.
And
Because they're expensive.
now
Yeah.
on you did a lot on the inside that we haven't seen yet. Took down
Another thing
walls.
on the outside is this bay is an addition.
Well, also
On the
the
back.
porch. You can see both
That's
of
right, that's right.
From the outside, the two modifications were the tall glass panes at the top was an open porch, and
We added that to make a sunroom.
we closed that in. And then on the lower level, the little bay door window arrangement was completely added. That was also just open, an open porch, and that was closed in and made part of the den.
And this gave you more space at the bottom of the inside stairs.
Yes,
Right.
the stairway comes down and is very close to that opening, and so the reason we made it bay out was to give extra space there for passage.
And it also
onto
was
the
in
stairway.
keeping with the design of the house, because the sides of the house had the same bay design.
Yeah, the gable in the end of the house and this is kind of on the same architectural styling.
We checked with a man from the Historical Society in Columbia to try to get some ideas for how to make it more livable without ruining the character of the house. So some of these were ideas that he passed along to help us stay with the architecture of the house and maintain its historical value.
And on the inside, you did what sorts of things?
Well, it was originally it had laths and plaster, and the plaster had deteriorated over the years and was in really bad repair. So we eventually decided to remove all the plaster, all the laths, which only left stud walls on the partitions and the inside of the lap siding on the wall. So it was really pretty much gutted. Then while we had it open, we went in and pulled all new electrical wires. So all the wiring was replaced with new wiring. Then we insulated all the outside walls because we had it open where you could put bad insulation in. And then we went back with drywall sheetrock over all the inside walls, and which basically made new wall surfaces with insulation and wiring behind it the way it should be.
See, you had to replace some of the windows and things.
Yes, the only thing we did on that was replace some glass, and it's old glass and the old wavy type glass. So we did move some of it around. There were panes broken out in various places around the house. So we really took out glass and put all the old glass together on this side and the two sides of the house you see from here, and then all the new glass on the other two sides.
Down here.
Yeah, I don't know. I think what they've done is pretty wonderful.
Let's see, I guess they also helped you get it cleaned out. This is the evening of June 3rd, 1989, and we're in Laura's back room.
It's not my back room.
This is what?
It's the freezes. Oh my God, I don't know. We better find out from them. What they're going to do
Well, what was
is
this
put a
room?
door over there and have an entrance coming in this way.
A door over here on this wall?
Yeah, that's one of their plans. Then you see when we park out here, instead of having to come up all this ramp and the big thing over there, which isn't finished yet, we just come up some steps into the door right over there and walk into the house. That'll be it.
Well,
But I don't know what'll be the name of the room.
what was this room originally called?
Back room.
And it was unfinished.
It was never finished. And it was used as, the kids slept in it for a long time. And then it was used for a storeroom and a plunder room and an electrical supply room, and the wall over here will show that. And all these worn out tools hanging around will show something.
Okay. Now starting over in this corner, what?
Now that board up there is a shelf put down to use large plats and maps on. And then it folds up against the wall to be out of the way.
This looks like a door.
It probably was a door at some time, but it's used for that right now, and it's made the right size and it's hinged on the right place.
Is that something you fashioned?
Yeah, Mr. Freeze and I together fashioned it and made it. And I've used it like I don't know what, can't do about it. And all of those letter files are Pappy's letter files beginning in 1898, I believe. Better look at the old one to see before we say. And coming on up to when he died, and then a few more after that, Madam kept.
His letter files. Letters from whom to whom?
From everybody to everybody, and carbon copies of everything that was written.
Have you ever looked through them?
I haven't been through all of them. I've been through a good many, and I got loads and loads of extremely valuable stuff when we were setting the Brody estate. And I think it's all been put back, and then I expect as soon as I get around to it and have time to start, I'm going through everything in every one of them and see what all I can figure out.
Was it personal letters or business letters?
They're all business, with including personal.
Okay. Now down in front of those letter
That's-
files,
That is mostly more letter files or contents of letter files that have not been found.
now, for example, this Alphen Brothers box, what do you suppose is in it?
Well, what?
This white box here on top of the auto seat covers.
Well, I'd have to look in and see what's in it.
Okay. Well, let me ask you something first.
Yeah.
Of what you can think of offhand in this room, tell me the things that are most important that you know that are here.
In this room,
Mm-hmm.
contents of those letter files, I expect.
Okay.
And maps and, now all this corner here is
Behind the
maps and
camera.
plats.
Okay.
Maps and plats, and they are most valuable if they have already been disposed of roadie-wise. There may be other people that are going to need some valuable information based on what information is in there. And if there should be any objections to anything roadie-wise in the future, what's in that corner there will probably solve all the problems and settle all the disputes. I'm always having to look up information for people that know that we've got all that kind of stuff. Let's see, what else we have.
Do you know of any?
Most of this over here is photo equipment. See that box is labeled photo equipment. And that's Madam's sewing machine over there, which is still in working order. And it's real good
When did she last use it?
when she was last able to sew. Probably about 59.
Well, now, you remind me of a little diversion here that I need to make. Well, the first one is that we do need to find a plug for this, so we'll stop for now.
Okay.
Let's take a minute and just tell us a little bit about Madam and Pappy, and describe them a minute. Well, I don't know what Pappy was like. We know about his plant. We know he kept all his records. Was he a very good businessman?
No, he was very poor businessman. Madam had to run the business end of it. She had to collect all the bills, and she had to see that this got done and that got done.
He was good at starting stuff but not getting paid for it.
He was a good mechanic. And he was a good operator of everything and anything, but he was a poor businessman.
What do you remember about how'd they meet?
Madam and Pappy?
Mm-hmm.
Pappy would ride his, Madam lived in U.S., South Carolina, went to school there, and I guess was born there. And then when Pappy started courting, the trains didn't run on Sunday. So Pappy would ride his bicycle. Oh, he'd ride in on the train and take his bicycle with him on the train, and then court Madam, and then ride back on his bicycle. Because the trains didn't run on Sunday, and the roosters weren't allowed to crow on Sunday.
In Due West,
In U.S., yeah.
ARP town.
Yeah.
How did he meet her?
How did he get acquainted with her to start with? I can't remember exactly.
Well, how long did they court? Do you remember?
A couple of years, I think. 2 or 3 or 4 maybe. I don't know. I'd have to dig into some practically everything that was ever in my brain left it while I was in Liberia. And little by little, I keep re-remembering things for a long time, but it just seemed to me like everything I'd ever known just left me. And I suppose maybe it would never come back anymore. But it does seem to be just all wow.
Now, before Pappy was married, he had a jewelry shop, right?
Yeah.
Where was that?
He had one in town of Batesburg. He had one in Rock Hill, South Carolina. He had one in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Why did he have so many? Or why
Just lived different places. And see, we lived in Spartanburg. I mean, in Rock Hill. He was running the telephone company. He just started a jewelry shop, I think, on the side. And was courting Madam out at Leslie, a little town out there, and they got my starter said they got married at Leslie, but I don't remember whether that was true or not. But Oliver was born at Leslie, because they were living in Rock Hill, and Uncle Oliver and Aunt Tiny lived in Leslie, and Grandma Johnson lived out there with them. Maybe that was Grandma Johnson's original home.
Uncle Oliver and Aunt Tiny being, who's...
Uncle Oliver was Madam's brother.
And Tiny was...
He's the one that I thought was God until I got to know better.
Tiny was his mother?
No, his wife.
Okay.
She was about this tall and had 8 kids. Had 9, I guess. So. Oh, maybe it was 8.
Well, did Pappy have any hobbies?
No, I guess not. He was born an adult, and when the Quattleton family needed him, he was about, I guess, about 10 or 12 years old. So he really worked as an adult, beginning with when he was just a kid.
What do you mean when the family needed him?
Well, I'm trying to think what's the first thing happened down there. Anyway, I guess there was just nobody to work. General Paul General Paul's business may have been what kept him from being able to do things, and then Pappy just jumped in, sort of took over on what wasn't getting done. I can dig up a lot of stuff that will refresh my memory on some of all this stuff. You just pushing me too hard, expecting me to sit down and tell you all this stuff.
Well, now, I was just thinking...
My brain hadn't worked for 2 years.
Let's think then about Madam. I know Madam, one of Madam's hobbies was her photography, because we've seen her pictures.
Yeah.
She read a lot.
Yeah. Madam read all the time.
Mm-hmm. And taking care of you and Oliver and Josephine, who all took care of y'all?
Who was the gal that named me Tippy? Anyway, she was a colored gal from around.
And she lived nearby here? Or did she stay here at the house?
No,
or?
she didn't. Nobody ever stayed in the house. I don't think a black ever slept in this house. The whole lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bob Henry came back from Atlanta, from DePaul to Atlanta one time.
Josephine's son.
With a colored, and went to his home with him and slept in bed with him that night. Josie didn't think anything about that.
That was Vernon Wilson, I think.
Huh?
Vernon Wilson was
I don't
that?
have any idea what his name was. I don't know whether Josie even knew him or not. But Bob knew him real well, and they'd been together in school and all that sort of stuff. So,
I think he became famous later.
yeah, I think he did. Anyway, Josie didn't mind that at all.
Let's see. Tell me a minute where where did Oliver go to school? Where did Oliver?
Oliver finished his high school, baseball league in the new school, and
No.
then went to Newberry.
Now, where did he go? What did he do about undergraduate? I mean, elementary school.
We all had a governess here. Oh, before we got a governess, before I started school, Oliver and Josie went to school in Leesville. And somewhere here I've got a picture with about 300 people on it. And it's got them on it, I think. That was a combination of the Leesville College and the grammar school all put together. And
Down there at the end of Main Street.
yeah, Madam took them to town in the buggy, and she had a room rented over there next door to school. And she'd go over there and stay all day, I guess read all the time. And then she'd fix lunch for them by recess. And they'd come over there and eat lunch and go back to school. And then when school was out, they'd all three come home in the buggy again. And I was still here with Grandma, and Virgie, and Sarah, whoever else happened to be here. And while they were doing all of that, Grandma was teaching me before I started school. So I was being taught while they went to school in Leesville. And then, somewhere along there, we got Miss Mary Abel to come down here and stay here all week and teach us, all three of us. So Miss Mary Abel started me out after Grandma Johnson had already taught me a lot. So we went to school in the front room in the parlor. And Miss Mary stayed up there where y'all are sleeping in what was Oliver's room sometime along the line. And we'd take her back to town on Friday afternoon in the buggy. And then Sunday afternoon, somebody would bring her back down here in the buggy. And she'd stay all week and teach us till Friday, and then go back home. And that went on for a good many years. And then somewhere along the
Now,
line,
was it Grandma Johnson who taught y'all with the blueback speller?
yeah, well, I guess she was teaching me with the blueback speller while they were going to school uptown. And Aunt Gledge taught us as our governess for a short time. I can't think what happened to who. The reason she did that. And then somewhere along the line, we imported somebody. I can't think now what her name was, but she came from over about Appleville or somewhere around. I think maybe somebody knew some of her relatives or something who got her. And then when we got a car, we were going to school in Leesville. As soon as it clayed the road, we bought a Model T Ford, and then that was in about October 1917. We should have started school in about August that year instead of October, but we started anyway. And starting a little bit late was going to be kind of hard on us, but Oliver and Josie, I think, stuck it out. Or maybe Josie was the only one who did. Anyway, I took the 4th grade over again, and we went to school that year, and then the next year I was in the 5th grade, and I flunked everything. 5th grade and had to take it over again. And then I went to 6th grade, and then 7th grade, and then it was time to go to high school, which was up in the new building. But it had already been being used for 1 year. And
When before you had the Model T, you took the buggy into town. How long did that take? Was that about an hour? And once you had the Model T, how much faster was it?
Model T, we all went up in it. And I think it wasn't too awful long before we drove without Madam or Peppy going with us.
The buggy, would that have 1 horse or 2 horses? Or
Just 1 horse buggy. And you see, it was just Madam and Oliver and Josie. it wasn't crowded in the buggy,
Mm-hmm.
because I stayed home.
Let me see.
And Josie went straight to someone from the 10th grade instead of finishing 11th grade.
Of the adults who are around here, Aunt Virgie or Pappy or Madam or Grandma Johnson or whoever, who was the most fun for a kid?
Who was what?
Who was the most fun for a kid to be with?
Oh. I don't know. And Gray just took the attitude that I was being starved to death. She made me a milkshake in the morning or a eggnog in the afternoon or vice versa, I forgot which. But I always had something extra to eat in the morning and I had something extra to eat in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandma Brody thought I was perfect. Thought Josie was just as coming together. I never in all my life knew but one time that Grandma Brody said a cross word to me. All the rest of the time I was just perfect and everything was lovely. You know what I did when she jumped on me?
What was that?
Well, I knew about the old lady that had always eaten rotten potatoes because she was so stingy. She'd always get the worst potato and eat it first rather than have it rotten and throw it away. So by the next day, another potato was rotten, and the next day another potato was rotten. So she wound up always eating rotten potatoes.
Now, wait, who was this?
I don't know, that was just
that was
just
story.
somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So when Grandma Brody was out doing something, she needed one potato. She told me to go bring her a potato. So I went over to where all the potatoes were spread out, ready to be put in the bank, or maybe they just didn't take them out of the bank. Anyway, just to carry out the joke, I went over and got one rotten potato, a potato with a rotten spot on it, and took that back to her. And she jumped on me as if she might have been going to beat the daylights out of me, twisting my behind. And I tried to tell her that I was just carrying out that tale about eating rotten potatoes all the time instead of throwing one away. And I don't know whether I ever got straightened out with her and whether she really saw it being a joke, or whether she really was jumping on me seriously. Maybe she was just too proud to admit that she had made a mistake and she let it be that way. But outside of that one time, I never knew her to say a bad word to me or say a cross word to me or ever indicate that she didn't think whatever I did was correct. Just exactly the opposite with Josie. And Josie was named for her. Everybody thought that she all liked Josie. She was done anything.
Okay. You had cows around here? What kind of animals do you have around
We
here?
had out yonder in the barn. The barn was out there where the office house is now. You know, I told you today it was moved from there down in the woods. That's where the barn was. And we had
On the road toward town, the old road toward town.
yeah, the old toward town. We had mules and horses and hogs. And the cows were back over. This down here was the cow barn until we built the one up yonder on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And us kids had to milk all the cows. We generally had about 5 cows. So whoever got through first would milk the odd cow. And I lived with animals. I spent all my time out at the barn with the horses and the mules and the cows and the hogs or whatever. And I didn't have anybody to play with, you see. And that's the reason I was so scared of people. I never had been around people. I just played with animals.
Who did the cooking?
I don't know whether Dairy Ann ever cooked for us or not. We had college living up there on the old Wooded Road. House had all torn down there, just a chimney rock fell down. Mary Ann, I think, lived in that house a while, and she may have cooked for us, I'm not sure. And then we had another colored woman who cooked a while. I can't think what her name was. Seems to me she was imported from somewhere. She moved from all these. And who else?
But Madam didn't do any cooking, did she?
Well, Madam supervised it all because nobody was around then. And,
What kind of stove did they use?
yeah, I've seen the stove.
Is it the one that used to be here in the kitchen, the
Yeah.
wood-burning stove with
Yeah,
the...
yeah.
Yeah.
Or had a hole there, and you took the round out and set the kettle there, and it fitted right down in it. And the kettle boiled away all day long. And in this hole, you put the frying pan on, and one electric hot.
Do you know where that stove is now?
Wherever Mr. Freeze lived.
Okay.
Must have been
Think.
so.
Let me think.
And the predecessor of it is over yonder under the sawmill shed. They are practically identical.
On the other side of the creek.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Damn.
Let me see. Do you remember any games that you and Josephine and Oliver used to play?
We played Going to Market, and we played Authors, and we played, what was the third? Going to Market was when you had all these, what the cards did was to advertise things. So you got familiar with everything that was for sale on the market.
Mm-hmm.
If you played Going to Market. And if you played Authors, you learned who wrote which books. All of these books were by Mr. So-and-so.
These were games that were sold at the store.
Those were all educational games. And there's another one, three like that. There was Going to Market, and Authors. What the heck was the other one? Can't think, but those cards are in there sometimes. Yeah. And then there was French, which was the only game Pappy approved of. That was mathematics. And Pappy used to play with us, and he'd teach us how and everything. And then Rook. I don't think Pappy saw much to a Rook, but Madam and some of her friends would play Rook. They were always hooking me in to make me, they had to have so many, and then I just caught me have to play too. So I finally began to hate Rook and hate any kind of card game I had to play. Except French, I liked that, and I was pretty good at playing it. So that was French and Rook and Authors and Going to Market. And whatever the third one was, matches things up like that.
When you were growing up, did y'all take any trips anywhere?
We went to Charleston in a Rambler automobile one year, and the top folded back. Then when you put it up, got everything all fixed.
This would have been about when?
1917. And then strings went from this corner over here and this corner over here down to up at the front of the car, right in front of right down where the headlights would be. And tied it down like that. And those things would always bust, and we'd have to stop along the road somewhere down in Hollywood Swamp and get the thing tied back up. And I can't remember whether it was that same year. I don't know whether we went down there 2 different years in the Rambler or what. But one time we went down there and we had so many flat tires. We had to buy a whole set of new tires. But Pappy was doing business with somebody down there. We're like power company wise. And we were able to get the whole set of tires while we were there. So we got home safe.
The road was dirt?
The road was dirt.
How long?
Hollywood Swamp.
Hoggyboo.
I think that was the name of it.
How long did it take?
Oh, I think we'd spend the night. We had some Summerlin teachers that lived between here and well, and I think we spent the night in Cameron or someplace down there where there was some Summerlin teachers we didn't know of, and then went on the rest of the next day. Maybe we did the same thing coming back. And then we went somewhere one year on the train. Can't remember.
When we went to Charleston, did you go to see family or? Just go to look
Hadn't
at.
found it.
Okay.
All we went, paid money and stayed on the place.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know anybody down there. And I think there are pictures that show all of that all along everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I think I've seen some pictures of from the battery.
Down there on the battery and, well, before you get to the battery, where you got all those houses and yards and things around with benches to sit on.
Okay. Let's stop a minute.
That
Or we were
sewing
talking
machine-
about sewing machine.
That sewing machine I'm able to work on, and I used to work on machines for all of my friends all the places.
No, that was Madam's. When she got it,
Oh, about the time they got married, I think.
which was what, 1898, something like that. I see. Okay.
I don't know, if we looked in it, we might find an instruction book that had today on it.
Yeah.
You just
might
have to
have
look
to-
around and learn.
Might have to look back now. Down here, right in front of the camera, if I can turn the camera to it, there's I think this little. What's this?
What, that box?
Yep, that box.
That's
What's that?
somebody's lap desk. But there are loads and loads of them around. I don't know who.
What's it say on the top?
F.E. Brody, December the 25th, 1890.
So somebody gave that to Pappy, I guess, for his Christmas present.
Yes, so.
It's pretty.
Common Brody. F.E. Brody, watchmaker and jeweler, Rock Hill, SC. Now, I'm saving all these, such as this. That's one that I don't have in my collection. And this is Josephine Brody in 1920. We were going to school at the legal school at that time.
And these are things you put in here, or?
No, these were already in it over all this lifetime. That's Uncle Oliver right back there. I wonder how that happened to be.
So
This is
Pappy
Madam.
left these photographs and things
This is
in
Madam. I don't know who
Little
that
picture.
is. This isn't nothing written on this. That's Uncle Oliver. I'm positive of that. Couldn't possibly be anybody else. And that's Madam. And who all these others are
here. Madam on the far left.
on the far right. Left end of the picture, but she was sitting on the right. And
Left to the viewer.
this is Madam. That's Uncle Oliver. That's Aunt Laura. I don't know who any of these others are.
Now this picture, where do you suppose it was taken? Can you tell this one with the fellow holding the oar up in the back?
Well, they seem to have a bunch of boats there, and that's the pond. It's a pond, but which pond, I don't know. No, nothing written on it. And seals from scales from butterfly's wing. Natural size. That's scale from a butterfly's wing.
Who do you suppose added that?
Latino artist. No. A small portion of a butterfly scale showing something edge and lines on surface. Photomicrograph by some light kerosene, by lamplight kerosene. Exposed, she took the picture. Exposed 5 minutes, Eastman plate.
What, Madam took the picture?
1/16 inch objective with eyepiece. Times 600, times 600 natural size.
So who took the picture?
I don't know, it doesn't say. I don't recognize the writing either. May have been Pappy. Pappy was have been taking that kind of picture more likely than not. That must be Wayne man. Descriptive chart. Foreman Brody, July the 25th, and the year's torn off.
Descriptive of what?
July the 25th, 1895. Mr. F.E. Brody, as given by Professor C.A. Hughes, Spartanburg, SC, July the 25th, 1895. New descriptive chart for the use of examiners, giving a delineation of the character as given by this man, so on. My gosh, what stuff. Mental faculties. Mental faculties. Gee, those ought to be interesting. Language of flowers. Names of flowers. What are they talking about, John?
I don't know. See that little clip there? Batesburg man is killed working on transformer.
Where? This?
Yeah, what's that about?
That is Mr. Hoover, the daddy of all these Hoovers that I've been knowing these last few years and doing business with and sold people land over there and all that kind of stuff. August the 19th, 1937, Batesburg, Maine is killed working on transformer. R.E. Hoover, for 20 years an employee of the Power and Light Companies in Batesburg, was instantly killed about 9 o'clock Saturday night while repairing a transformer in the Negra section of Batesburg. Now, I don't need to read the rest of it. Mr. Worrell, who came to work in Batesburg, wanted to wipe him out of existence. Are you recording stuff like that?
Well, I was recording
I better
stuff.
just read it. If that's the case, I better finish reading the article.
Okay.
Mr. Hoover was seen to slump over and hang to the pole by his climbing belt after a flame had issued from the transformer. His son, Bobs, who was assisting him, climbed the pole and brought his father's body to the ground. A physician and others worked for over an hour using artificial respiration in an endeavor to start the heart in circulation, but the effort was a failure. Mr. Hoover was buried Monday morning, and the largest crowd seen at a Batesburg funeral in many years.
Did he ever work for Pappy?
They worked together all the time. They were just like that. Mr. Hoover was known to all the people of that end of the county and was held in highest regard. He is survived by his widow and 9 children, his mother and 4 brothers. And the skunk that closed the switch on him belonged to the Presbyterian Church.
Okay. Let's see.
And
So that gives us a flavor. We got a little bit of everything in this in here.
Yep.
And probably pretty much just as Pappy left it.
Well, those are not Pappy's. These are pictures. This is Grandma. I think both of these, I think, are Grandma Henry.
But here's a sticker for live harmless reptiles. So you probably added that. Pappy didn't have anything to do with reptiles, did he?
Yeah. You may have cut that out for you.
Okay.
Ain't no telling. Baptist denomination in South Carolina, held with the Baptist Church, Rock Hill, SC. Well, I'll be darned. That must have been while they were living in Rock Hill. Don't see any other dates in it.
Now let's stop a minute and think. See anything else around this room that? What else in this room somebody might stumble upon that might not recognize the value of, but that'd be interesting.
This is on Velox paper, and is printed by lamplight for 2 minutes and then developed. That's the history of that picture. Now who in heck is this? Not a sign of a name on it. Who is that? Well, that is a great mystery. This packet.
Does it have his name anywhere on it?
That's packet. No, but oh, that's a Van Ness photo.
Made in Charlotte.
Yep. Ida Johnson, Leslie, South Carolina, York County. August the 19th, 1889.
So that must have been a picture Pappy had of her when they were courting.
Before they got married. Now here's a sample of a picture. See, I say samples like that to see whether they kept or whether they turned yellow. Who in heck are these people? Nothing is labeled. I don't have any idea who any of those are. Rochelle, Rock Hill. Now, who in the heck is that? They were living in Rock Hill, but I don't know anybody that they knew. Ida. Good gracious, you mean that's, Madam? Thank you. Something Brothers. Can you read that at the bottom line?
Gallagher Brothers, Greenville.
What, Greenville?
Well, if that's where she was from, why couldn't that have
No,
been
she
her?
wasn't from Greenville.
I mean, but she was from that part of the state, wasn't she?
Well, that was too far away for her to ever get into that big.
Even go have, if her family took her there to get her portrait made?
I don't think the family would have taken her anywhere to get a portrait.
Why not?
Oh no, they just didn't do that, things like that. That doesn't look like Madam anyway. Well, I think that
Any other Idas in the family?
and that's Madam. I don't know it, and that's, I believe that's Packy.
This is another print. Do you recognize the scene?
No, not at all.
Is that a black man back up there on the back?
No, I think that's a white man. His hand looks white. Orangeburg, SC, 1917.
So you think
Yeah,
this is Madam here in this row?
Yeah.
She's wearing this hat, second
Yeah.
from the left.
I received a little pin.
That's Pappy behind her without a hat.
Yeah, that's what I said while ago.
Okay.
Is on the side. Do they not send you by, do they not send you by, like Longwood, and something to fill out about something work unless you have connections with a chapter. Mrs. John F. Wise, vice something of one of the chapters here, was so nice to me, gave me a something book. I don't know. Oh boy. Well,
And what was in back here in this part of it?
This isn't anything on anybody. From Augusta Exposition, fall of 1889. Nothing but a thing of straight pins. Look at that.
Straight pins were unusual.
I guess they were.
This was Pappy's wallet.
I don't know. Don't have any idea.
It says F.E. Brody.
It said F.E. Brody was probably Pappy's. This must be it.
There's a note
F.E.
from
Brody Leesville, S.C., May the 3rd, 1890.
Okay, this is a note from F.E. Brody for $95 at 7%, dated February 22nd, 1896. Renewed August 3rd, 1896. P.T. Brody.
That's Pappy's brother.
P.T. standing for Paul.
Yeah, Paul, probably Paul Thomas or something.
He wrote this from Rock Hill.
Yeah, there's a Richmond and Danville Railroad Company, South Carolina, passenger department. I guess Pappy must have ridden the train case. Spent. All years. There's all the money Pappy spent.
And here was December 7th, 1892.
Cousin Ada Brody.
Promissory note to P.T. Brody for $25, 7% interest for value.
Now all this ought to be gone pretty sometime. I gave VRB, that's Aunt Gregory, 30 cents. Kitchen Hills, let's see, that's what all this Brody business has been going on.
Here's the letter of recommendation from a consulting engineer in Rock Hill.
You see, he worked up there a while. I guess he was getting somebody up there.
Saying he has no doubt that F.E. Brody is competent to build and install an electric light plant. It was 1902.
1902. Well, he may have helped install the Batesburg light plant. But, you know, one reason I know about much as I do about lawyer Uncle Perry, Pappy used to have to confer with him on all kinds of things. And they hired him to do something Batesburg-wise. And then he got the idea that what they were going to do was to fire him as soon as he got all the places insurable. See, when they wired the houses in Batesburg the first time to sell them electricity, they did such a sloppy job, not a single house in Batesburg could get insurance. So they hired Pappy to come run the place a while. And then Pappy got the idea they were going to fire him as soon as he got all the houses rewired so they could get insurance. So he had to write to Uncle Perry about it.
Did you ever hear Pappy talk about his trip to Niagara Falls in Montreal in 1893?
I think I had some stuff he brought back and gave to me. Is that right up of it?
Well, it's an envelope labeled Relics from Niagara Falls in Montreal, July 1893.
What is it, stamps?
Well, here's some leaves.
No.
Something from a tree.
I guess he gave me the stamps. Thompson College, October 27th, 1896.
Here's from Mount Royal in Montreal,
My
Canada.
dear Bubba. Now, who was Bubba?
Somebody's brother.
Reckon Uncle Paul was called Bubba? Fondly sister. I
Uh-oh.
guess Bubba must have been, I guess Bubba was Uncle Paul. The box containing my bracelet and pin was received Friday afternoon, and I am very much obliged to you for fixing them. The bracelet is more satisfactory now than it has ever been before. I have wanted to write you every day, but since Thursday our hearts have been so filled with the sadness that it has seemed almost impossible to settle myself to letter writing. The awful yet heroic and beautiful death of Professor M.C.G.H.W.E. looks like. I never heard of it before. Has surrounded our entire community in gloom. While newspaper accounts of the accident are truthful, I don't think they can convey to the readers even a faint idea of how awful it was. His left side was literally shredded from collarbone through the hip joint, being mangled every throb of the heart. The liver and intestines visible, the shoulder, arm, and hip broken again and again, without one murmur for 4 hours. He wrote and talked incessantly, arranged the most minute details of his business and unfinished work. Who in the heck was he? Then, in perfect peace, he closed his eyes, and in another hour he was with the master whom he loved. On Friday morning, his body was carried to the chapel, where a short but very impressive service was held. At 2 o'clock, the and 3 other members, or must be president, and 3 other members of the faculty started with it for his home in Lexington, Mississippi. They did not reach their destination until Thursday night, or Sunday night, and will not return until tomorrow. We were sorry to leave though Mama's letter that have been sick, hope you are quite well. Something this time. Bad cold seems to be the order of the day here, and we have not escaped but have not suffered much. I have learned to manage my wheel all right, and I enjoy riding very much. Oh, must be a bicycle. As a rule, I ride every afternoon for an hour or more, and often go out right after breakfast. For a while, I tried riding before breakfast, but found that I could not stand it. I think the exercise is doing me good, and some of my muscles are certainly stronger than they were when I commenced riding. The Hill's brother. The hills bother me a good deal yet. There are a great many wheels on the hill, and it is not often that I can't find plenty of company. We are beginning to think of turning our faces homeward, for it is less than 2 months until the vacation begins. Bill, now that's Uncle Paul's wife, thinks she will not go home during the winter, but brother expects to, that would be her husband, expects to spend part of the time at home. Of course, I am looking forward to spending all of the vacation at home. Oren says, give you a kiss and a hug and tell you to come to see us. And that's their
Oren.
Yeah, Oren Brody. Tell you to come and see us. Brother and Belle join me in love to you. Let us hear from you when you can find the time to write. Tell Miss Condon, she was a friend of Aunt Bridget's, so that's who that is, that we are delighted to hear such good news from her. Finally, sister. Now, sister is Sarah, so this must be Aunt Sarah writing to Aunt Bridget. No, writing to Bubba.
Writing to Pappy, maybe.
No, Bubba, I think, would have been Uncle Paul.
But she makes reference in there to brother, as though it's not the person she's writing to. Belle's husband.
Well, in that case, I guess it must have been to Pappy then, but I didn't know she ever called him Bubba.
Okay.
Well,
So Paul Brody.
Yeah, envelope's addressed to Mr. F.E. Brody. So that was, so Pappy was Bubba.
And where was that mail from? Where do you
Mail
suppose
from
Sarah?
Clemson.
Okay.
Clemson Cottage.
So, and if you look at the date, would Sarah have been in college at Clemson about then?
She wouldn't have been in college at Clemson. Uncle John was probably teaching woodworking up there, and she was living up there with him.
Oh, okay.
But I
Okay.
didn't know for sure.
Uncle John, her
married that
husband.
early.
What's the date on it?
The date is October 29th, 1896.
Okay.
October the 29th. Oh. Received in Rock Hill. See, I written to Pappy in Rock Hill. And was received October the 29th, 1896. And Pappy's got
And
it on
Sarah
there.
and Paul were the twins. Okay.
Yeah, Sarah and Paul were twins.
Let's hold up. Tell us what it is you have there in your lap.
This is a test magneto that is silent if there's nothing connecting it. And if you make a connection on it, it sounds like this. See, turn it, there's not no connection, it's silent. That together, and it makes that noise.
So this is how you
So
find
put
out
this-
the circuit.
If you put this across the filament of anything you want to test, it will make a big noise if it's good. And it's going to shock me.
Here, I'll hold this one on.
This one here has no word. Yeah, the simplest thing is to
The bulb is good. Now, whose magneto was this?
that was the Berlin Power Company's. Now that lamp is good, so put it over there with the rest of it.
And, well, it was around here as long as you remember, that
Yeah,
magneto?
yeah, it was, yeah. Otherwise, I don't ever remember I'm not having it.
And what was the trick that y'all used to play when company would come?
Oh, when company would come, we always had a fire in the front room, in the fireplace, no stove. So we'd have a fire in there, have the parlor for all the punks to sit around in. We'd sit around the fireplace and chairs. And then, after a time, one of us kids would come in with something. And everybody that's already here would know about it, nobody except the newest company that had just come. So we'd have maybe just an ordinary small wire running from one of these over to around somewhere else. And everybody was supposed to hold hands. So everybody from this end and over here would hold hands going around the line like that. And then whoever was sitting on this end would have this down under the chair someplace and have one connection on here and then send another wire around up to the last person on the line. And then everybody else you see in the middle would hold hands. And then the first guy would twirl this thing around like that real fast. And then everybody in the whole shebang would be shot to death. And nobody would know everybody would know what was going on except the poor one newcomer who never did know about it. And no, we never had a new visitor without putting something like that.
And you just get a little mild tickle out of this.
When mild tickle, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You felt the little mild tickle?
Yeah, I remember. I'll pass it on and now. It makes you drop it real fast. And inside there, what's the mechanism inside there? Inside the box?
It's 2 coils rigged up together, and this crank turns them and generates electricity. And there's something there that catches the electricity that makes the noise. And nothing, just an open circuit. Doesn't do anything.
Okay.
And you can test practically anything with this. And I have never burned down a light bulb by it, but I think I have been smart enough to know if I had a little tiny flashlight bulb, then not to turn it very fast or it would burn it out. But it makes quite a lot of current. And you can tell by the way it sounds whether you've got a good There we are.
Which room is this?
Rockwood dining room.
Did you eat in here when you were a small child?
Yeah, I sat right over there all the time I ever ate at this table.
And you were little enough to sit in a big chair or a high chair?
Yeah. I got to sit in a high chair for a while.
How old were you when you were born anyway?
How old was I when I was born?
Yes.
I was about 8 pounds, I think.
That's a good answer.
But the fireplace here was in the living room.
Yeah,
That-
the wood trim.
You mean the mantle?
Yeah, that didn't, we moved it in here. And that was not original dining room
Well,
equipment.
that came from us all of us. Yeah.
Actually, I don't think there's any furniture in here except this right here. That's
No.
original Brody.
I was looking at the picture yesterday and it looked kind of funny. I wonder if that thing could... Oh, I bet the mirror is what was funny, making it look so funny.
That's the only piece in here
That was,
original here.
yeah, Brody.
And it was sitting right there on the picture.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that piece right over.
Now, how about the table?
No, this is a table that we,
The old Brody table is in the attic.
It's got round legs with spiral running around.
now there's a couple of chairs here that are original Brody chairs. This one, these
The two
two,
with the rounded.
the two with the arched backs there, and of course the high chair.
That chair there must be one that had the piano in it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Brody chair.
Piano stool wore
This one
out.
that's a little bit too,
Piano stool wore out, we got that.
it's a little bit taller than normal.
Yeah, it should right on the piano.
Now this table came from Miss Henry's. She sold us that table, several years ago out of her junk house.
That back there in the antique house?
Mhm.
Is that the one with the glass balls and feet?
Yep.
That's out of it down a long time.
And we already had one that almost matches it. It has the twisted legs and the glass feet that we had gotten in North Carolina years ago. This one was from Miss Henry.
This is Pappy's desk, right?
Pappy's desk.
Do you know when he got it?
Ought to be a date in it somewhere.
Was it here as long as you remember?
No, I remember when he got it. And it has all these little things inside of it. Has this. Yeah, look at the shotgun shell. It has, how kids used to get in it when he would go off and lock it up.
Yeah, show us that.
These things, you put letters in and put this down to hold them flat until you got ready to do something else with them and file them in different places.
Now, did Pappy always keep these drawers on top of this desk here?
I think it always done it.
That's what would normally go on a bookcase.
Yeah, that'd just go away when you need it.
So how would you get into the desk?
Well, when the top was pulled down, none of the drawers would open. Not those and all those. And we found out some way that if we crawled up under it and reached up behind these drawers, there was a bar there with a spring on it, and we catch that and pull it down. It took two people though, because somebody had to lie on the floor and pull that thing down, and then somebody else come and open the door and whatever they wanted to get into. If you pull that down, I believe you could pull the top up without a key, but we always wanted something out of the drawer. So when he had the top shut down, the drawers wouldn't open. All we had to do was reach up under there and put it down and open whichever drawer we needed.
How about pull out one of those drawers from the center up there underneath the roll top area? One of those letter files. Show us.
You may find some Brody information in here, get a newspaper clipping.
Okay, that's good.
This is an
And
8 by 11 size, I think.
show us the one above it, what those look like. And that'd be correspondence, right?
Yeah, these take, well, right size for private slips and things like that. Whatever you need to put in them.
Okay.
And then when they got handled, they would go wherever they went permanently. This one's empty.
Was this the master bedroom, or what was this?
Madam and Pappy's bedroom, and I was born in here, but Joseph was born somewhere else because the house hadn't been finished enough.
We're down on the first floor on the pond side.
And the bed matched that dresser, but it's since been disposed of. And it's out over here.